Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you on an African adventure like none other. I was lucky enough to be invited down to Africa with Tim Wells, Alex Perrick and Danielle Harbison to film with them. And so I brought my saddle gear with me and decided to see if saddle hunting is viable in Africa. I didn't want to sit over man-made waterholes and I didn't want to sit in blinds. And so I hunted river valleys and thick bush pockets, changing places all the time with the goal to try and learn as much as I can. I need to understand these animals and understand Africa to give myself any chance of success. A lot of the places were very challenging. The trees weren't big, they're full of thorns, and there's just about no straight trees in Africa. So I was lucky I had good knowledge from being an arborist for so long on tree strength, and I knew what would be able to take me and what wouldn't. The other thing about Africa is you're not the only animal in the trees. And let me just tell you, this does play on your mind a bit. So let me take you on a beautiful saddle hunting experience in Africa, where we go through my findings as I learn them. And ultimately, we get to some success, but it has a twist like you've never seen before. And it's very fitting for Africa. So the plan was to fly from Johannesburg to Polokwane in the morning. And there, we'd actually been given a surprise helicopter ride, which would take us the rest of the way to African wild safaris in a place in the Limpopo region called Messina. This is my first time on a helicopter, and I was super nervous. I'm also meeting for the first time Jesse Anderson, who is also a budding photographer and videographer, and he'll be joining us for the whole trip as well. Jesse will also be in a saddle, as it turns out, and so we'll be helping each other film as much as we can. The helicopter ride took about 40 minutes, and as soon as it took off, all my fears were actually gone. They just fall out of the sky too much for my liking. But man, what a smooth, beautiful scenic flight it was, and especially when you get to go through some beautiful canyons. And then we were greeted by the impressive dam at African Wild Safaris. What a fantastic sight. And I wish I could have filmed how many crocodiles we saw. This is the same dam that Tim Wells would end up sparing his hippopotamus. A pretty incredible experience to be part of. So we'd now touched down at African Wild Safaris, which overlooks that said dam, and what a beautiful reception we had. So we settled in for the afternoon and had a nice little bit of a game drive to try and find some places to hang the saddle and get some photography.
David in Edinburgh will be masturbating to this stuff, I tell you.
Then, after a beautiful sunset and evening by the fire, it was time to get ready for our first saddle hunt in the morning. Hey, what's up, Matt from the Meat Hunters here. We're in the heart of Africa with Tethered. I've got the beautiful lockdown saddle on at the moment. I've just put up my first set here in Africa. We picked a nice river basin. There's no bait here. No previous, there's no watering holes, no blinds, nothing like this. We asked to go for a drive. Myself and Jesse Anderson, who's over in the other tree over there, we picked this spot out. So hopefully this resonates with some of you awesome whitetail hunters out there. It is possible to come to Africa and just hang your shit, man. So the setup today is a little bit more challenging. I couldn't get up as high as I wanted because of the branches that hang down on this tree. I think it's a leadwood. So let me show you. I've had to stage it, so go up, then across, and then up another one. It's a multi-stem tree. But yeah, it's pretty good. And I'm really well hidden from where the animals are likely to come in and stuff like that. The good thing about Africa is you can really see the travel routes and the footprints and stuff like that. So let's see how we go. I'll show you the setup.
All right,
this is the overall setup here. First steps there, got to go across here, and then there's a couple other steps, and then my platform and the tether up there. So shooting is in this riverbed, that's what we're talking about here. And there is some other trails coming down behind us here as well. So these are just obviously access roads and stuff like that for the property we're on. Let's get it on. This is going to be good. So here we are, all set up. It's a bit of an awkward setup. Tomorrow I'm going to come and fix it up a bit better, but it'll work for tonight. I just don't want to make too much more noise and redo everything. It's 3:30 now. It's perfect time to just be quiet and see what comes in. It gets dark about 6 o'clock now, so we've got like 2 hours now of good prime time basically. Pretty pumped, it should be good. Jesse looks all set up over there now too, so yeah. Let's rock and roll, baby. Hey, any of you South Africans out there watching this, do you saddle hunt? Have you saddle hunted? Give me some tips and stuff, man. I'm freaking down for it. But however, as nice an evening as it was, no animals came in. And tomorrow, I would change my tree to a better spot, and we saw a lot of action. So, day 2 in the saddle. We're going to keep it quick. It's a morning sit. It's about 9:30 now. Animals should come in about 11 to 2 for the midday drinking thing here. I've moved tree today. I'm much more comfortable now. I rushed yesterday's setup, and it was probably the worst set I've ever hung. Nothing to do with the gear. Just I didn't take the extra time just to set it all up properly. But yeah, let's do this. Should be good. I got the big lens on the main camera, so hopefully we can get some nice photos and videos and stuff like that too. But see Jesse's setup. Jesse Anderson, Grizzman, is just over there, about 50 yards away, in the other tree. So yeah, should be a good day. So as mentioned, today's setup is much more comfortable, but the actual getting into the tree was more complicated. This tree was almost on a 45-degree lean, and the bark is rock solid on it. And if you know what that means, it means the steps don't bite in properly. On top of that, I had to use my platform as an extra step just to get up in that crutch. But that worked out fine. There were lots of places I could comfortably stand for the duration of the sit. I mentioned the day before that it's really easy to see the busy spots in Africa, and I think this little bit of footage really sums it up. All the riverbeds are known travel paths for the animals. It's cooler through the day, and of course the reason why we're here, there's water. Not an hour later, the animals started coming in. Now we actually managed to arrive just towards the tail end of the rut for the impala, and even though their movements are usually a little erratic, at this stage of the year they're exasperated and often chasing each other around and always on alert. But this time, it was wildebeest that were challenging them for the watering hole, and they'd have to come back after these big animals were done. Picking the right watering spot turns out to be quite a skill, as there are some deeper spots that the animals do not go to because there's a higher chance that there's crocodiles in them. So the animals, as you can see here, will often drink out of almost little puddles instead of the bigger bodies of water, and that's purely down to safety. So this is the first piece of information that I've learned, and I also had confirmed from the PHs. Both myself and Jesse are not so experienced with wildebeest yet, and decide not to shoot because we're not allowed to shoot any of the females and only an old bull, which we're not 100% sure of. The wildebeest hang around about 10 minutes total before they decide to move off. And they're quickly replaced by the impala that must have just been waiting in the forest. And now we just have to wait and hope that there's a ram that myself or Jesse can shoot. For whatever reason, there's no ram in this group, and they're also not sticking around to drink at this particular spot. They continue up the dry riverbed, and then to our surprise are replaced by a solo ram. Just as it's starting to look like there's a shot opportunity, the ram gets Jesse's wind and decides to head up the dry riverbed as well. So even though we didn't manage to let any arrows go this morning, I personally learned a lot, and it's been anything but slow. And today's the day that Tim Wells joined us in camp, so it's time for me to go back to work, which is my main reason for being here, and to film him and Alex attempt to try and get this hippo. So next time we're back, it'll be a different spot and a different location to learn more things. There you go, all set up here. I'm a little bit low. I'd like to be up on the ridge, but there was no good trees there. So we just have to hope we get a little lucky with the animals coming. If I can spot them coming through the bush fast enough, maybe I can get in position. But if they're just going to pop out on the ridgeline, I think I'm done. So they're like hanging around in these little low pits down here with all the reeds and stuff. So yeah, I'm feeling really good about tonight. Let's go to the nation. Yeah. So this set was absolutely beautiful. I was in more of a wetland type deal, for the African version anyway. Tall reed grasses, a very cool area, and a great chance to see some wildlife. Tonight's lesson would be about height. I always try and get as high as I can, but as you're about to see, and I'm only maybe 3 meters off the ground, this diker had absolutely no idea I was here and went about his business completely unaware. Unluckily for me, it was a female, but again, I'm here to learn, and this setup put my mind at ease a little bit about the height that you need to be at. On top of the height factor, I'm also getting it reinforced that these animals don't go for the deep watering holes like you see in the Discovery channels. This low ford, where the vehicles pass through many times a day, is providing the safety that this diker needs to have its evening drink. The diker would enter the bush and circle around behind me, and that would conclude the evening. The next set I'm on, I don't learn anything, but I bet you there's not very many people who've had this happen to them while they're in a saddle. Luckily they're just going by. It's crazy. I don't think the white rhinos are the super dangerous ones. And I'm up in a tree, but it's still a little bit nerve-wracking. I'm sure they could push this tree over if they wanted to. Well, at least my setup looks good. They didn't smell me, so Africa, baby. Yeah. The next few days the wind was super strong, but again, I'm out here, I'm learning. From what I understand, in these conditions the animals don't move, but you know, I'm more likely to get something up here than in the lodge. It's also good to point out how strong these trees are in South Africa. I really wouldn't recommend going this thin if you don't know what you're doing, especially when you're hours and hours away from medical help and you're in conditions like these. A little bit of an update. It's 1 o'clock. The wind has not died off. Just taking a little bit of a pause here. There it goes. All you guys out there with your mountain ops snacks and stuff like those. This is South African mountain ops. It's called biltong. It's better jerky. It's the only way I can describe it. It's amazing. If you guys ever come to South Africa, ask them to get you some biltong. I was starting to get a lot of good information and putting myself in spots where animals were coming in. The biggest thing I saw is that animals, even in these natural water points, were very cagey. And I'm guessing that's because it's where they usually get hit by predators. It was at this spot here that I realized that often the impala come in and out of the thicker bush all day long, come out to eat and go back in again, and don't even come into the watering holes. And it wasn't just one. For hours at a time, they would come in and out into the sun and then disappear back into the shadows of the forest. The other thing, which of course is more of a confirmation, but sound. Sound plays a big deal, as you'll see here on this impala. He was too young to shoot, but that slight shatter of my arrow had him looking up, and he clocked me almost instantly. But you can see that everything I've learned so far is correct. Shallow drinking spot. I mean, you can see the bottom of this drinking hole. Clearly no crocodiles in there. And my height was good, because he'd managed to come the whole way in without spotting me. Things were starting to add up in my head, but I just wanted to try a few more spots to see if I could get some more confirmation. I was thinking that it was into the thickest, darkest places I needed to go. But first, let's try a mountain pass and see what we can learn from that.
So today we're doing something a little different. I'm actually in one of Tim's old spear stands. We're up in like kind of a hilly area this time. So they wrap around the hill and then come down here, and there's water down in the valley there. So the trails are pretty well used, and I really hope that I manage to get something today. It'd be nice. It's already, probably 25 degrees, and it's supposed to get up over 30, which I think is, from memory, 80 something, 87 Fahrenheit. So yeah, everything's going to be moving today. It's going to be sweet. But oh yeah, and I forgot my base plate because I was doing some tripod work the other day, so I've had to do a little bit of bush mechanics, and I had to tape my camera on to the arm.
So maybe a couple hours later, a young kudu bull came down the hill and basically locked eyes with me straight away. And then, to make things more difficult, an impala ram came out of the bush very close by. Unfortunately, I can't move at all. If I move, this kudu spooks and the ram's gone as well. This standoff lasted 6 minutes. To me, it felt like an hour.
So, I am a freaking massive dumbass. This was never going to work, this spot. That young one that came in this morning, that's literally the only place they could come in here where they wouldn't be able to see me. The two big main trails, like where that young kudu came, and I just had a whole bunch of impala come in, are like directly at eye height with me. Like, that I might as well be out in the open. They just came down, and they, like, 4 of them were just looking straight at me like, "See you, buddy," and they just turned around and walked off. On top of that, thermodynamics, right, is a thing. As the day heats up, winds go up the hill. So the winds were good this morning, but of course when it gets hotter, all the winds are just going up that hill there. So, yeah. Oh well. We live and we learn, but I can't believe I didn't think about that. I've set, a lot of saddle places up now. I think because of this platform, I was like, oh great, this will be like fun and easy to use, but yeah, not going to do that again. Now you guys know some information that you probably already knew, and maybe you've already spotted it before I even set this up. You're probably sitting there going, is this guy a freaking jackass? Like, how does he think this setup's going to work? And if you did, I applaud you. I am a jackass, and this setup didn't work.
Every spare moment where I wasn't filming someone else, I was testing a new location, testing the trees, and just learning as much as I could about the African animals here.
Beautiful morning here in Africa. It's been great. I've bounced around a lot. Every place I've been to, I learned something new. Africa from a saddle is something you have to do. It's beautiful, like the amount of wildlife you see and how much better it is not being in a concrete blind is just phenomenal. And if you enjoy saddle hunting, this is something you need to tick off. So impala hunting is very close to whitetail hunting. They seem, even their vision seems to be the same. They don't seem to notice me too much in the saddle. Sometimes one will look up, of course, but yeah, hopefully today's a day. I'm starting to get a little bit less picky. I kind of want to get a nice old mature ram. Even though this is all private area, it's all conservation still. They don't want us shooting their females out. They don't want us shooting the young males. You know, we've got to try and select the appropriate animal to remove. So yeah, it's so quiet. It's beautiful too. There was a fish eagle came in before. There's hippo tracks here. There's rhino tracks as well. So it's beautiful. Let's see what today brings.
The only thing that happened today was more learning. However, the next day we got a little more interesting. Myself, Dylan and Storm spotted a leopard while we were driving back to the lodge. Now, the interesting thing about this leopard is I'm hunting just across the river from it, and I would be nothing but a tasty, tied up piñata in the tree. And to make it even more interesting, the day after we found a fresh kill from it. However, it was time to trust my gut instinct and go into the bush, into the deeper parts where I'd seen all the impala.
This is the setup for today. Just been dropped off. I just kind of pulled all my gear out of the ute, so it's all laid out on the ground like this. But this is a tree here, it's a mapani tree. So I'm going to go up this, up here, kind of on a nice little mound here. And this is like a midday hangout spot for animals. You can see how like worn out it is all underneath the bushes here. Pulling in nice little animal chutes and tracks and stuff. And literally just got dropped off and some kudu walked through. I couldn't get my camera in time. About 5 minutes after I got dropped off. Well, it can't even be that close. No, it probably is 5 minutes. I've probably been sitting there thinking about things about that long. So I'm going to go up there and hopefully shoot something. Let's see how we get on.
So in this direction here, just follow that road up, is where that little dike was with the impala. It's probably roughly 100 yards difference. The experiences that we have while we're hunting is probably arguably the main reason we do it. And here in the middle of nowhere, in the thick African bush, I managed to make friends with a completely wild African squirrel. For me, it blows my mind. Like, this is a completely wild animal in the middle of the bush, but it still recognizes the food, which I guess it smells. And I guess maybe it's never seen a human before, because it really was not that scared of me. And then a couple of hours into the sit, my plan started to unfold. The impala were moving around, eating whatever they eat underneath this, and completely relaxed. This was almost like looking at a completely new animal. In this group there is one male, but unfortunately he never gives me a shot. The experience is very cool though, and it validates my theory. Impala, through the middle of the day, like to stay in these thick, shady pockets of bush. The other thing that I was initially worried about was there was a lot of vervet monkeys close by. However, I just held still and they never sounded any alarms and settled in totally fine. This, as you'll hear soon, ended up helping me out, and the opportunity that I had waited for was about to present itself. A nice impala ram in the thick bushveld. All I need is the ram to turn slightly, and then I'll have myself a great coring away shot. Well, that was interesting. I thought it was just monkeys down there. Then I spotted a tail like this and I was like, oh, maybe it's a monkey tail. So I just slotted that arrow through that gap there and it sounded like a good tunk, you know, that nice chest cavity hit. I had a look at the replay. As you guys have seen, the camera angle from there wasn't that good, but here I got a nice pocket to come through. So thinking about just getting down and having a quick look for the arrow, see if I can find that. But yeah, that thunk sound was nice, so fingers crossed. So just got to the arrow here now, and it's a bit of a mix of blood and guts, and it was coring away, so that's not really a surprise. There's blood on it as well. I'm going to have to, I think the safest thing here is probably to ring Dylan. I think I saw where it ran off to, unless it was another one, but I went through there and back up onto the hill there, and I think I heard it crash, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Just a couple of notes before I forget. The having those monkeys around is actually really good. They kind of see you, but I don't think they're used to humans and trees, because as long as you stay still, they like kind of ignore you and get on with their business. They make a lot of noise, especially in the trees. So like then, even I accidentally made some noise, but those impala were just none the wiser. I'm sure they just thought I was a monkey up here. So I think it's a pretty rare thing maybe to happen in Africa, have the monkeys around you like that. But if it does happen to you while you're saddle hunting, it looks like a good thing. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have any cell phone signal, so just had to wait, as agreed, for the boys to turn up. By the time I got down, it was too dark. We had a quick look around, but decided to come back early in the morning. However, things were not looking good almost straight off the bat. There were predator tracks everywhere, and not just these small jackals.
So we've got a hyena here, and you can tell the difference between a hyena track and a leopard because the hyena's back pad is flat. We're going to look at leopard soon. So here's the leopard track, and you can see the three, I don't know what to call it, three bulbs on the back of the track. Here's its toes and stuff here. So Dylan, what were you saying? They've got a nice South African measuring system for leopard tracks.
So normally when we see leopard tracks, we measure them with a cigarette, and then you can measure to know if it's a real big male. It must be the padding. If you look at the bottom, this padding, if it's got the width of a shotgun bullet, a 12 gauge shotgun bullet, then you know it's a 80 plus kg cat.
Yeah.
But a lot of young males, they big tracks, but it's the width of the padding at the back that you can identify if it's a real big male. And then the females intend to have smaller tracks, so you either would say it's a female or a young male, but this one I can see it's a fairly big male because it's got a really thick padding at the back. And yeah, so we've got two leopard walking here, and one looks like a brown hyena. Spotted hyena's got a much bigger track.
And so like last night we've seen two different leopards at least, and some hyena.
And some hyena, yeah, walking around. They love next to the rivers and that, and we've been seeing these hyena tracks walking all over here as soon as we pass in the mornings. And yesterday we were sitting not far from here where Matt was sitting up in the tree, and we heard kudus barking, and then we picked up these leopard tracks.
You guys in America, you got to worry about coyotes, you got to worry about big cats and things here taking your kills if you don't get them in the night time. Oh, sorry, before the night. So.
But Keeper managed to find the blood trail, and it was an impressive one at that.
Huh? I'm trying to smell it, I can't smell if it smells like liver. So there's a lot of drops of blood here. He was standing here and there. Picking go and look, there's another place in front here.
A flood?
Yeah, that's good blood. I mean, let's just have a look at what we might be lucky finding. Well, we've got a fresh leopard track coming down this little passage here, and just behind Matt is where that impala was laying. There's a lot of blood. I think the chances of this leopard taking this impala is really good last night, but we're going to look around here if we don't see any drag marks. Hopefully we can get the impala back. Should be eaten, but at least we can get the trophy.
This is where the leopard tracks come, and then it comes around into here to where this blood is. I'll show you quickly. All in here. So this is where it's where the murder's gone down, and Dylan's I can't see what he's seeing, but he sees the rocks turned over and some scrapes and stuff like that, and thinks that it had a little struggle, and we just got to work out where the leopard's taken it. Ew, Africa, it's fun. Like, I'm honestly obviously a little disappointed, but this is like a new life experience, you know what I mean? Like, the stories are going to be awesome from it. What is awesome from it, like, yeah, Africa's a great place. It's awesome, all about the stories and the adventure. So Dale, what do you reckon?
Yeah, so we got back here, we brought Keeper here to have a look as well by this leopard tracks close to where this impala was laying. We think it died overnight, the impala, and then the leopard picked it up, because we're not finding any blood, drag marks. It's difficult on these rocks for drag marks, but because we're not finding any blood, I think the blood stalled already, and yeah, so we won't find a track on that. And depending on how big the leopard is, lots of times they pick it up really high, it just drags on the bum. So I think it's a really good chance that the leopard took this impala.
Yeah, the tracks, just again, the tracks come up here, and then at these rocks here they stop, and the blood's just around that corner there. So yeah,
it's just one of those things. If you have a lot of predators in the area, all I can tell Matt is to shoot straight.
So there we have it, taken by a leopard. I think that's a pretty badass ending, to be honest. But seriously, that's cool. I got a really good story now. We've the puzzle is over. It was a good hit. It's plenty of blood. It's just yeah, unfortunately, you know, got picked up too late. It was dark, and like everything, it's better to leave it overnight if you're not sure. So rolling the dice here in Africa, and this time the leopard won.
This was by far the best saddle hunting experience I've had to date, and I will be returning again for sure. If anybody is interested to come on an adventure with me, please get in touch. We're going to be organising some more saddle hunting trips to South Africa. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to everybody that was involved. Thank you, African Wild Safaris. And remember, if you see Tim's hippo hunt, a lot of the filming was done by yours truly. Thanks for the opportunity, Tim.